wait till smack on 4 o'clock for the TV to come on.
I'll make it 4:05.
I can confirm that the
recording in progress.
Tēnā tātou kātawa, nā mai haere mai, tātou kai. Tēnā hui, o te poari, o poroi, hapori, o Kāwhia. Greetings to you all, and welcome to today's Kāwhia Community Board meeting. And thank you to my tutor. If I could declare the meeting open at 4 o'clock and just call on Cassidy for our open session. Thank you.
Tēnā koe te tiamana, me o kupu, ai, e whakapainga I tēnei hui. Nō reira mihi ana ki a koutou, ko whakaroi ka mai nei, kia inoi tātou. He unuhanga ānaku, he unuhanga ārangi, he māreretanga, he māpunutanga, ko te pō kātū, he pō waha te pō, he pō wehe te pō. Ko wehe atu te pō mi ona ahotanga ki tū o pai, kia heua mai ko te ao marama. Kia marama I runga, kia marama I raro, kia marama I roto, kia marama I waho, kia marama ki tua. Kia tau iho mai te maramatanga kiringa ki tēnei whakamininga, tauana mai te maramatanga kiringa ki te huarahi, kei nui te aroaro tēnei wā. Tūturo whiti whakamaua, kia tēnā, tēnā haungie, hui e, tāi ki e. Tēnā tātou.
Thank you, Catherine. There are no apologies?
Yep.
Right. And no late items? No late items. So there will be, are there any declarations of conflicts of interest for the agendas?
If there's any discussions on the Fitness Trail project, I declare a conflict of interest there.
Right, moving along to the public forum section. Now, there's been a mistake in the agenda for today, and I'm going to explain it to the two parties that are appearing today in the public forum. So our first guest to our public forum is Carol Shepherd, and she's given us a very good presentation on the proposal for the installation of murals in the Kāwhia township. Carol, the floor is yours.
Tēnā koutou. Before I get into the proposal for murals, I'd just like to go over a couple of things to sort of set the territory a little bit, I suppose. It feels to me that there's many plans for different types of signage going on in the township at the moment. The historic sites which you've been talking about, I'm thinking Fitness Trail, and now my murals. But I also know that there's a lot of pop-up signs that can look really messy in a small town like this. They just sort of appear without any connection to anything that's actually going on. So I think that a lot of things can be combined, historic sites and murals. There could be freestanding information that similar to what Hotu School did a few years ago, where students adorned and decorated the poem. They had barcodes so you could hit on them and that story would pop up. So there's lots and lots of potential there. I think it's wise for us to embrace this technology to combat any loss of oral tradition, as information can be recorded in both text and audio in Māori and in English. I have a lot of experience in commissioning public sculpture, but I think that this is a much bigger and broader type of proposal that we're looking at. So to stop some of those sorts of weird things that pop up, and for example, we don't need Disney cartoons on the main street, and I have to say that we're really lucky they haven't been hit by Disney because they're copywritten. So we don't need, I think, that sort of imagery that would get us into trouble. So the proposal, I worked on this idea with the art group before COVID, so it's been simmering away for quite some time about murals for the town. And at the moment, we've got our town, really visually enhanced by the poem Momahara by the late Te Kuiti Stewart. We've got a beautiful patterned wooden picture frame that Lloyd and Hinger, both of you I think were part of there. But there is actually little else, I think, in the town to brighten it up and to identify who we are as a community. The Kāwhia Art Group and Te Puti Art Studios recognise and value the insights, life experiences and contribution made by the residents and place them alongside the needs and dreams of the young. We have people in our midst with the skills to design, make and facilitate the painting of the murals. Both the Kāwhia Art Group and Te Puti Art Studios propose to work alongside several community groups and the school and to create a township alive with a range of exciting artwork that tells our stories. I can actually see our history being unravelled through murals and that they are pertinent to this place. Murals have always been considered a way to bring people and communities together, as recent murals in Whitianga and Hamilton have proven. Art that connects to the area invites the local community to be part of their creation, and that's the aim of the proposal. I don't suggest that the works are going to be made solely by our groups. An intergenerational aspect of the proposal is also of importance. Older residents provide memories, younger residents help design and create the murals from their point of view. Collaborative mural projects can establish or reinforce a sense of place and distinguish communities from others. We in Kāwhia value our connection to the land, sea and sky and recognise we live in an archaeological, historical and culturally significant part of Aotearoa. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today and to answer any questions that you might have at this point. But really I'm here to ask for advice about how we move forward on this and hopefully with the Kāwhia Community Board's support. Just for clarification, this gets commented on a lot. Te Puti Art Studio participants are those that have come to my classes or are now in my classes. The Kāwhia Art Group are a fairly loose, eclectic mix of individuals for who are artists and who have participated in Spring Fling and in fundraising activities. It's a very loose group, and anybody that has an interest in art is automatically part of it, so there's no structure to it of any sense. My experience has been on, I've worked on the public art panel for Hamilton, with the installation of some of the new public sculptures. I have myself have got public work in AUT, the University of Auckland, Department of Cultural Affairs, Beehive, etc. So I'm fully aware of what's needed to actually progress something that is quite complex to get everybody involved in that process. I'm really happy to assist that in any way, but I'm not going to be up a tall ladder or on scaffolding, so I warn you about that. Some years ago, I was approached and the art group, Te Puti Art Studio, to redesign the signage out on the main road. And I thought it was all in place and money was even allocated and talked about, but as predicted, with new board members coming in and out, that particular opportunity got lost. So I think it's time now to bring everything together, signage out on the main road, signage in the town and around the area, and look at that in a lot of detail to ensure that there's connection, cohesion and culturally relevant recording in this special place. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Any questions, board members?
No, I think it's a great initiative. I think probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the appropriate way to go forward now is to look at introducing this proposal as part of the Kāwhia Aotea concept plan development as we're going forward, which we're just about to kickstart, and I think probably that could form part of that consultation process.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to acknowledge everything you do for the community, Carol, and really appreciate you. I just picked up on a couple of sentences here We in Kāwhia value our connection to the land, sea and sky and recognise we live in a historically and culturally significant part of Aotearoa New Zealand. And this ties in again with the narrative storyboards that I brought to the table, so that would be great to work in with. This is exactly where this would fit in. And also, another sentence I picked up on is we have people in our midst with the skills to design. How fortunate are we here in Kāwhia to have such high skill base that can actually drive this kaupapa. So I'm quite excited.
I think the intention is that that designer works, of course, with a mixed, diverse group, but that there will be others that will help produce that work. So the schools, community groups will be there. We sort of laugh a little bit and say it's a bit like paint by numbers, but that's how a big process works. And I think that it's a perfect opportunity to get that underway.
Thank you.
Just one further question, Mr. Chairman, through you. So, is this proposal, are you looking for funding assistance with this, or is this something that the group themselves is going to pull together and fund?
Well, I think there's going to have to be several sources of funding.
Yep.
And one of our members is somewhere today looking at different types of funding opportunities. Yep. But there's no doubt that there are some that, creative communities would be able to support, and because it fits all the targets for them. I'm sure that somewhere like Resine Paints, who have got a very good reputation in support, providing the material for these, would be a starter. And I think there's other sorts of places that we could go to. Right. I would want the designers to be paid, so I'll lay that down very, very heavily. That it's important that we acknowledge the artists in this area, in this town, and we acknowledge that they are professional and that there is a need for them to be rewarded in some way.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, great.
Full members, another question?
Talk about our history and whatever. Like, I'm new to Kāwhia. I've had a place here for a long time, but I've only just settled here. But to me, like reading some of the stats we've got here, that 56% of Kāwhia's population is Maori population. So I would hope that if any art or anything reflected that situation, in my opinion, that's what I feel it should reflect that. I'm not quite sure where Kāwhia by the sea, if you know what I mean, but we're Kāwhia, the birthplace of New Zealand, for want of a better term. So whatever we're creating, I would like it to see that it creates what we are, and we are 56% Maori, and we have a pretty big historic part to play in the settlement of New Zealand from a Maori perspective. So I would like I would like to see that reflected in any sort of display we're having around the town or anything else. We should be reflecting that part of our history prominently, in my opinion.
I'm very, I would have thought that how I've written it says that exactly. It doesn't, I'm absolutely conscious of that.
Looking at some of your draft examples, yes, you certainly have incorporated a lot there of the local history for sure. Board member, nothing good thing. The board members and councillors have covered things quite nicely. Just one question down the bottom. The artists live in the community art TOPO styles. What's TOPO?
What have I done there?
It's the old post office.
The old post office.
Sorry, it's the old post office shop in Gallery across the road.
Yeah.
It's sad that I've fallen into that sort of thing.
I always will ask.
That's fine.
Don't worry, you can't slip an acronym past me.
Jen, we still have people coming in with letters to post. So.
Yeah, good on you. Thank you very much, Carol. Appreciate it.
Carol.
Very good.
All right, if I could call on Kāwhia. And Annie, you coming up? No.
Before I sit down, I just want confirmation. Is the Kāwhia Community Board in charge of the property where Dr. John is? I think was the Monarch Butterfly Gardens.
It's Otaronga District Council.
District Council.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
That's okay. Sit down, you've got it.
Oh.
We've already had a talk about it. Means you own it.
Yeah. Well, I'm here representing the Māori Women's Welfare League. The Assistant Secretary is Annie Mahara is with me. I'm the President. Now, at our last hui, one of our members, as a proposal to the Māori Women's Welfare League fundraising, it was suggested that we look at doing a community project, and Annie suggested that the that monarch butterfly gardens, that the league ask the Kāwhia Community Board if we could weed and clean up that area. But we do not want to carry on maintaining that section. It's just to clean it up for us to fundraise, asking for sponsorship in it. So we would do the work, clean up that area, and then listening to Carol here, that could be an area where the art people could beautify later on. The intention of the league is to also plant some native shrubs in there. We did have a walk around there this afternoon to have a look at the property. So what we are asking the board, through the board to the council, is permission for the Māori Women's Welfare League to tidy up that section.
And you also proposed something about the state highway sign, but that's been addressed. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, can I talk to that?
Yeah, of course you can. Oh, is
Yeah, I totoko our chairwoman with the proposal for the clean-up for the butterfly garden. Yeah, I totoko your kōrero, Carol, because coming through on that Ormsby Road into Kāwhia, I didn't even know there was a sign there because you can't see it. And it's got Kāwhia, and it was my American friend that spotted it out and says, "Have you seen your sign?" I says, "Where?" Yeah, so it's all done. It's all done. So yeah, well done. Thank you. Yeah, so that is my proposal to the board as well, to brighten that sign up. Look at Pirongia's one, how beautiful and colourful and longer. Kāwhia can go longer with the tainui waka suggestions. Tainui waka, awa, the moana, mountains, ko whaiwhai signs, red ko whaiwhai down the bottom, all that. Lots of, you know, there's so many artists in Kāwhia. It's wonderful. So that's my proposal and that's my kōrero. Thank you.
Thank you, Annie.
Yeah.
And I'd just like to add that the Māori Women's Welfare League support Carol and your proposal.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Is that all?
That's it.
Just wait there.
Lastly, if I can add, the Māori Women's Welfare League are having a sponsorship on Saturday here, and our funding that we raise will go towards the Go Girl.
Is that your housing and your things at 2 o'clock, is it? What time does that start?
2
o'clock.
The housing.
Yeah.
It's the housing.
Oh, and our what we get from the sales at the table.
Yep.
Yes.
Good. Thank you for that plug.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Is it intended to continue with the butterflies?
No, as I said, that we will clean up, but we won't carry on maintaining the section. But we will beautify it, and if approval is granted to us, we will plant some native shrubs, not trees, shrubs.
Yeah, great. Yeah, because we discussed this later in our, great idea, awesome. Just to pick up on the sign, we've actually discussed this before, so we can continue discussing this.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been brought up before.
It does sound like it's tying in nicely. But
Yeah.
It's timely now.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Chair, do you have the shrubs to plant, or would you require that we provide it for you to plant?
Do you have shrubs?
Well, we were going to approach the Kāwhia Moana native gardens for some plants. they've been granting us plants to think through the Wanipu Charitable Trust. So, yeah, and I'm part, I'll wear that cap as well. So.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just when council plants trees, we're always mindful of what they're going to grow into, so that they don't end up being something that's going to be incredibly expensive to maintain or dispose of later. So we'd have to probably someone from your group would get in touch with our Parks and Reserves people, and maybe we can have a discussion about
that's no problem.
What would be the best species
of
plants for that section?
Okay. I'll take note of that. Thank you.
Board Member Harper, have you got any questions?
I'm all good.
Sorry, one last thing. Who owns the outside of the hall? All of us? All good. Because our hangi is in the kai cookers, and we would like to be able to cook it somewhere around here.
Oh, so you approach the rebate if you want to use it.
Thank you. That's all.
Now, just one question. Did you mention fundraising? You were saying to use this as a fundraising opportunity to
yes, so the thing is that our members will have to seek sponsorship. Individual members go and ask for sponsorship and tell them that that's the community project that we're doing is cleaning up there. So it's up to the individual. But if you'd like to sponsor me, thank you very much.
I might see you later. Thank you very much.
That goes for anyone else.
Very good.
Right. Thank you very much to all participants in that public forum. That's what they're all for, right? So you can all sit here, have a put it all, and find out what else can be helped. Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
All the ladies today.
Yeah. Right, moving on to the minutes of the previous meeting. I'll take it that all board members have read them, and can I have a mover that they be accepted as a true and correct record of the meeting?
Yeah, I'll heard you.
Seconder? Yep. Seconder for that? Thank you, Rick. All those in favour? Aye. All those against? Just for the sake of keeping things moving, could I suggest that if I ask for an approval, just stick your hand up. I'll join. And if you don't, stick your hand up as well. Because I'll keep an eye on it. Okay. Is there any matters arising from those minutes?
I just have one. I remember, sorry, I can't see it here, maybe here, when we were discussing the hall here, I had asked if an AGM was going to be followed up, but I can't see that anywhere reflecting in the minutes.
I'll wait that until my general business report.
Okay.
Just one other question, Mr. Chairman, on page 6. I assume that the letter has been sent to the Oklahoma Police. I just wondered whether we've had a response to that letter.
Through the chair, the letter was emailed and the board was CC'd in.
Yep.
And then he replied to everybody and sent a response email.
Has he? Okay.
If you don't have it, I will resend it.
Yep, if you wouldn't mind. I seem to be missing one or two at the moment. I had a double up on them, as you're probably aware, on a meeting.
Yes, and if you just be aware, I sent an email and it went to a totally different kit.
Yeah.
It wasn't even my address.
It went off into ether.
Yeah. It appeared from the ether and went off into ether.
If you find any examples of that, if you can send them to me, we can investigate them.
Thank you. Any other? No matters arising?
Through you, Mr. Chair. On page 7, for a card and a gift for former board member Ken Briggs. Who's going to action that?
Through you. Yes, we sent that through.
Cool.
So we had a greenstone necklace and he was apparently in tears.
Yeah,
Very, very grateful to the board for that.
lovely.
Right.
Kia ora, thank you for doing that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Board Member Walsh, any? All right, we are moving on to item 10. You got 10?
10 or 11?
11?
That's the minutes.
That's a number. So it's there, is it? She catches me out every time on that one. This is the Kāwhia Aotea Concept Plan Community Advisory Group and confirmation of membership. I'm assuming that all members have read the report. Do you have any questions to the Chief Advisor, Ross McNeil, who's sitting right in front of us? Do you want to speak to your report, Ross?
Kia ora koutou. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, just a couple of points. So the names, I think, speak for themselves. We followed the process. I was really pleased that everyone I contacted in the shortlist said yes. So there's a lot of interest and commitment out there to participate in the process, which is always good to see. I might add I was quite heartened by the public forum items as well, because it seems like the stars are aligning in terms of people wanting to get on with things in the community, and they are, I think, ripe for the picking in terms of the concept plan process. But if I can make a couple of comments. The first is the community advisory group makeup. As I've indicated in my report, it does lack younger members, and so been giving some thought to this. So with Mrs. Apathy on the group, there's probably an opportunity to maybe work through her with the local school, particularly some of the older students. And also, I'm aware that there are a number of rangatahi in the community, and there may well be scope to just pull together a smaller group with some of the more senior but still younger members of the community. So we'll give that some thought. But if you think that's a good idea, then endorsing that would be helpful. The second point is around the geographic coverage of the concept plan. So at the moment, or at least on paper, it's the area that you as a board oversee, which is quite specific. And so I think in some of the earlier reports, I've probably talked about the Kāwhia Peninsula. Having considered it further, I think it makes sense to extend the area that this project and your oversight and governance covers back towards the deviation. So it includes Oparau and the Oparau district, because there are, I would say, the majority of people, if not all of them, who reside in that area will associate with Kāwhia probably more so than Otorohanga, even though they probably do travel to Otorohanga, or probably Te Awamutu in terms of service support. So that at the moment is kind of outside the geographic sphere of this project, but I think to bring it in, and I can't see there being any issue from a council's perspective if that's the case. It just makes sense. And then the last point, Mr. Chair, was there have been a number of previous plans. So we've got a community plan from 2003, 2004. We've got a landscape plan, I think, from 2004. So there are documents out there that have a range of actions and recommendations in them. We're going through and those plans and documents, collating all those actions and recommendations with the idea that we'll look at the status of those. Some may have been actioned and completed, some may not have and still need to. So we need, and I think this concept plan process will help with that. And there may be actions or recommendations where the world's moved on substantially and perhaps no longer relevant. But I think having those on the table as part of the baseline for this concept plan work makes a lot of sense. So we're just moving ahead with that, but we'll bring that work back to you as the board as we progress that. So they were the additional matters. Happy to take any questions in relation to what's in the report and obviously what I've just mentioned. I've got hard copies here too of those earlier plans if members would like a hard copy.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, thank you, Ross. Yes, I take the point, and I'm pleased you've made the distinction about the extending the boundary, if that's the right term. I know that the names that I suggested I looked at people who actually were inside the Kāwhia and Aotea boundaries, though there are one or two on that list that would cover both the rural and the community anyway. So, but that was a good point that you've made. The other thing I'll just say, for the benefit of members who may not be aware, some time back the Kāwhia Community Board had a number of workshop sessions with, I'm not too sure what they were called in those days, Tourism Waikato or whatever, and there was a draft, very raw draft, drawn up as a result of that, which I think I've flicked a copy through to you, Ross. I think the point that was made at that time was that Kāwhia was a destination. It's not a place which you drive through to get to somewhere else, unless you're coming from Mokau up to Raglan and you have to swing through this way. So I think the distinction there was that if you're looking to promote Kāwhia, I think the plan was trying to come up with some ideas as to how you could best do that, with Kāwhia being a destination as opposed to just a place you drive through. So just wanted to make that. Okay, thank you.
Board member, you any questions? Board member Arthur, question?
No, I asked a few questions before we got started, so really everything I had was sorted out. But I think it's good, and I think getting all those other plans are good. It's been some good reading. But when we get all this here together, like if you look at some of those old plans, there's stuff there that just hasn't been touched, and it all looks like pretty nuts and bolts stuff, easy stuff, you know, not big projects, you know, like bilingual signage and that sort of stuff. You know, that's not big money items, and it doesn't appear to be there. But it's mentioned in plans and it's mentioned previously. So I just it's going to be. It'd be nice to see the ideas that people have had for quite some time come to fruition. And the ideas that those people may not even be around anymore. But you know, so it would be nice to see that some of those things come to fruition.
I agree.
I don't know. I've enjoyed reading your proposals.
Board member Harper, thank you for pointing out those reports to me. I appreciate that. You're doing a lot of digging for me. Appreciate it. Thank you. Board member Walsh, any questions?
Mr. Chair, can I just add, probably picking up some of the suggestions from the public forum and board member Harper's comments, I suspect that the reason why a lot of these good ideas haven't got legs is resourcing. And so with the concept plan collective, which is Otrahonga, the rural plan and Kāwhia Aotea plan, council has a budget to help implement those, not only develop the plan, but commit to some implementation, which is where I think both you as the board and the community will come in. There will still be not enough resourcing to be able to do everything. So how do we prioritise the things that might be easy wins but quite important for the community versus those bigger projects that may, you know, need to follow their own process and time frame. So I think maybe we're in a different context this time around with the money that council has set aside to help implement those plans, that, you know, we can move forward. So we've, just by way of example, we've now got an implementation plan for the Otorohanga Town Concept Plan, prioritised set of actions, and we're about to kick off getting some of those moving and completed.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just to pick up on Ross's comments there. Those previous plans were drafted at the time when council staff muster was probably about 20 heads less than it is now. There was a very strong desire to be frugal and very careful with every dollar spent. So even if a dollar was spent, there wasn't actually someone there to do the job. I think the last council at the time of the last LTP signalled a willingness to engage and invest in community initiatives, and the development of these plans was the first step of that. It's not in the plan, doesn't get in the budget, and it doesn't happen. So I think we're seeing that happen now in Oklahoma, and that's the philosophy and momentum that's going to be rolled out in the Kāwhia.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I totally agree with what Andrew's saying, and just want to make the point too that if the budget that's been set aside for the 3 concept plans is not going to cut the mustard, there's always the LTP coming up that we can actually pick up some of those items and put them into the LTP and plan for those in future years. Yeah.
Certainly, given the significant investment that ABC is putting into the planning stage of the Kāwhia concept plan, I would certainly expect that there will be some good come out of it.
And as a ratepayer, I express my gratitude about the frugality.
So, just one further question then. So, Ross, so when does this kickstart as far as the community advisory groups are concerned? Are they starting shortly in terms of getting together and?
So, subject to the board signing off on the report, the first gathering, which is really an informal session, will be next week when the consultants are in town doing their site visits and reconnaissance work, and then we'll start the process. I've already started contacting members of the group to get their preferences for meeting days and times, and once we've got that, we'll set up a calendar of meetings through the course of the project to tie in with the different project phases.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Ross, just some interest, so the consultants coming in, you said, for look at projects that you're looking at already. What are these projects?
No, sorry, they're not coming to look at projects, they're looking at the context to develop the plan. So they want to come and look at different areas within the 2 communities, or this geographic area, so they better understand the context within which the plan will be developed. So they talked about site visits, so there will be specific places they want to go and see. They are not projects. Yeah.
Thank you.
So they're familiarising themselves with the area as part of the work that they need to do.
Yeah. Ross, would you be able to give the board members an update on that meeting that you were proposing on Wednesday? Time?
So you're invited to attend.
Yeah.
So if you can make it, great.
Yeah.
If not, then I'll update you. So it's really a meet and greet, and it's kind of the opportunity for the advisory group members to meet board members, meet the consultants, and
so the advisory group's getting all invited there as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because it would be good for me, in particular, that there's a lot of names on here from Kāwhia that I'll talk to meet. Well, we're at the stage in the staff recommendation is that the Kāwhia Community Board confirm members of the Community Advisory Group for the Kāwhia Aotea.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, I just have one question. Sorry. Is there a mana whenua group going to be established?
Yes, sorry, Mr. Chair, I neglected to mention that. So we're still working on that. So the intention is still to have separate mana whenua working groups for both this plan and the Otorohanga Rural Plan.
In my understanding, you say you're still working on getting that group.
Yes. Yeah. So we've had some members identified, but that process is still going on.
So that process, well, through you, Mr. Chair, so that process, you'll come back to us again with the process for the mana whenua group?
I'll come back to you with an update. So the process is the individual iwi and hapu groups are being approached and advised in relation to the project and seeking representatives for that working group. I'll just check with Cassidy that I've got that correct.
Kia ora tātou. Yeah, just come and speak to this quickly. Working towards establishing mana whenua representation working groups for both of the concept plans as per what had said. So I guess some context, working on with Otorohanga District Council what those relationships look like and the capacity and capability as well across all mana whenua representation to be able to work effectively within this space. So it may look like a spectrum of engagement in terms of how they may be able to engage. Some may be more touch points informing, and some may be able to take on more arduous tasks that require more time, but there will be specific mana whenua hu.
Kia ora, Cassidy.
Any further questions? Board members, council, you've read the staff recommendation. Do I have a mover? Would that be accepted?
Yeah, I can move.
Do we have a seconder? Board member Hugh moved and board member Walsh seconded. All those in favour? Aye. Aye. All those against? Carried. Very good. Thank you. I must admit I am looking forward to that process starting. You look at the enthusiasm that we've got here from the community, it's going to be cool. Item 12, we're moving on to the Sewer Defence Emergency Management Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to take, as the board has read, quite a lengthy summary of this part of 6 months with the civil defence activity, and including the events of Cyclone Gabrielle. Unfortunately for the Oparau River and the people up Oakpark Road, they were probably the only place on the west coast that we've got a real hammer, so they really whipped in there. Must have been very heavy rainfall up at Kāwhia. I never actually got a total from any agency about how much water fell up there, but certainly flushed that river out. Caused the power to be cut here. Power was lost up Kāwhia West Road, and a couple of houses were affected within it. So, yeah, it's quite an event. But anyway, happy to take any questions.
Mr. Chairman, through you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, thanks, Andrew. In the absence of Councillor Williams, I attended that meeting as deputy, if you like, deputy dog, and it was. I'll go back to the start. When I read the agenda, it said council chambers level 1, and I made an assumption, never assumed, that it was the Hamilton City Council building. So I went to the Hamilton City Council building, and they said, we don't know anything about this meeting. What's it to do with? I said civil defence, and they said, oh, you need to be in the Genesis building. That's where the civil defence people meet. So I said, okay. So I trailed round to Genesis, asked at the reception and they said, oh, you go up the elevator. I went up, I was the only one there, and the penny dropped that I was still in the wrong building, so I went all the way back to Hamilton City and said, hey, what's going on here? And they said, let me have a look at your agenda. And I showed them the agenda, and they said, oh, you want 160 Ward Street. This is 200 and something Ward Street. 160 Ward Street's the regional council building. Oh. So then I had to go all the way down to the regional council building. So to cut a long story short, I arrived at the meeting, but I was 20 minutes late, but I didn't miss too much.
Lucky you're on the right side of the river, the other side.
Yes, I made that point. I said the last time I went to a regional council meeting was on Hamilton East. But anyway, just a couple of points very quickly, if I may, I picked up. The Civil Defence Emergency Group, I think I've got that name right, have appointed an iwi liaison part of their group, and it's called the Tainui Waka Alliance. Okay, and I just made sure I asked them, was that alliance representative of all the iwi in the Waikato region, and particularly the coastal maraes and iwi and so on, and was assured that they are. So that was the first point. We talked about the local emergency response plans, and I raised the issue that Callum Stewart, our Chief Officer, was about to review our current plan as it's about 3 years out of date, and as an example of that, the sports clubs still identified on that plan as an assembly point, so it's obviously no longer relevant. And there's obviously contact names and the numbers have changed in that plan too since that time, so that needs to be updated fairly soon. And there was a suggestion that perhaps there should be at least an annual public meeting out here to involve the communities and familiarise them on what to do and where to go in the event of emergency. I think it'd be fair to say that the majority of people in the town, if something hit the fan here, they probably wouldn't know who's doing what and who's, so there was that aspect which they're going to follow up on, which is good. In the report itself, in clause 4.5, it talks about the Mayoral Relief Fund, and there was some discussion as to whether some local councils perhaps should provide their own mayoral relief fund rather than rely on the government to do that, and that there would be, in that case, if there was a local relief fund, the likes of Oparau and so on might have been able to get some assistance to help them clean up or do whatever they needed to do out there. So that was also raised, and there was a couple of presentations made by Zoom, and I think I've sent the one on foot and mouth disease out to board members just for your interest as much as anything. Foot and mouth is not an issue for New Zealanders, but it would be if it was ever introduced here. So it was quite an interesting presentation, and I thought that might be worth sharing with you. So other than that, it was a good meeting.
Through you, Mr. Chair, and Ross can probably expand on this because he's actually been in the situation where they've used it. But my understanding is that the concept of a mayoral relief fund is more like an empty account that sits there for other councils to deposit into when you're in need, rather than a standing fund that is available for disbursement. Is that correct, Ross?
Yeah, through Mr. Chair. Usually the government of the day are keen to provide funding, and often that funding goes into a mayoral fund. So it's a dual kind of purpose. It's a place where people who want to contribute, members of the public want to contribute to help folks recover, but it's also an avenue that the government will invariably use to provide support. So all of the funds that have been announced over the last few weeks or month or so will end up being administered by councils under the auspices of a relief fund, mayoral relief fund.
I think the point that was being made was though that in the case of say small communities like Oparau where they were sort of subject to receiving funds from government, it would have been nice for local councils to be able to chip them in a few bob to help them out. That was the suggestion, I think. Yeah, fair enough. It was needed too. Yeah. No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further questions? I must admit, it did make an interesting reading when you realise what happened, just the scale of it and the effort that was put in around New Zealand. It actually gives you a lot of confidence to realise there's a lot of support out there, isn't there, to make sure that things happen, if not straight away, but eventually.
I think the system is stretched.
Yeah, it's a good way. Board members, councillor, you've all read the staff recommendation.
I'll move it.
Do I have moved? Councillor Jeffries, got a second?
Second.
Second by board member Few. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to a board members update, starting to my right this time.
Board members updates.
Board members.
Well, no, actually nothing from me this time. I am just a little bit disappointed we haven't got the sewage report that I thought we were getting, and the process seems to have changed. It actually says in our minutes here that staff told us we'd be getting it this week, but now it's been changed to an Oklahoma council meeting by the looks. So it's just whether we can zoom in on that, because I wasn't aware that meeting was going to be on Tuesday, and plus I'm flat out with work, getting away is going to be awkward. No, that was all to me. So I asked about that before, and nothing's come of it just yet. Hopefully by next week, something will.
Board member Harper.
Are we general business?
A board members report, yes.
No, I'm all good.
Yeah. Board member Hugh.
O tēnā tātou, beautiful, wonderful people. On this, what day is it? I've even lost what day it is. It's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday before
It's
Easter.
a Wednesday afternoon. Okay, cool. My report is I've started the conversation with the storyboards for the narratives with Te Runanga o Ngāti Hikairo. So yeah, it's just initial contact, and then it's the first step. So I can see this project, it's going to be a lengthy one, but it's a start. And what Carol proposed with the murals, this is something that we can. So it's all, we have that whole same branding over the township, which is good timing for that to come in. I do agree. So that's that one with the board started the conversations. And I just want to say with the art is I do agree with that Donald Duck one as you come in. Yes, let's get rid of that and let's put something that is unique for us here in Kāwhia Moana. My next one is that we've been taking quite a few groups. When I say we, that's Lloyd and myself, been taking quite a few groups for history walks here in Kāwhia. So there's been a lot of schools and groups coming out to Makatū Marae, because Makatū is the only marae that's open here at present. The rest of the marae are all closed due to, renovations and upgrading. So yesterday we took from Te Kura or Kaukoro or Pātetere, which is they are in Putaruru, 100 pupils for a walk from Omiti right down to the Waka and having their history kōrero. So they came out here especially to hear the kōrero. So that's what I'm wanting to let everybody know, that we have a lot of groups coming here wanting to hear our stories. So more so, this is where I see the storyboards will be real ideal as well for having our narratives told.
Just quickly, through you, Mr. Chair. So, with this taking these groups, is that through your Tainui job, or is this an initiative?
This is as a community person.
Oh, it's as a community person.
Yes.
So
my job, I run events for the tribe. I don't organise history walks.
Okay, so this is just an initiative that you picked up and run with them.
This is an initiative that people get in contact with us because they know we can tell the story, and we've got the skills to do that. So we've been doing it for many years, Dave. So and it's still continuing.
I presume young Josh was doing it with you too at one stage.
No, Josh was not with us.
Oh, not with us. He was doing it.
No, Josh is Josh. He does his own thing.
Oh, okay.
This is Hinger and Lloyd doing the history walk when schools get in touch with us.
You know, I think it's cool. I was just thinking.
Yeah. So that's just for clarification.
Yeah.
So it's a real it's an awesome feeling when you have schools coming out and they walk away hearing the kōrero from here, from Kāwhia, because this is the centre of the universe. And on the Māori map, we are the centre of the universe, especially here in the Waikato. And I think that's me for now. So beautiful. And through you, Mr. Chair, Kāwhia, I will make myself available for the 20th of April to come to the chambers for, there's a workshop there, isn't there?
Community board training.
The community board training. So yeah, I just had a look at my diary. I'll rearrange. I feel that I do need to be there. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So no reira tēnā tātou.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick summary of what we've been up to. On the 6th of March, we had a Risk and Assurance Committee meeting, and we had interviewed two very, very strong candidates for the independent chair of that meeting, of that committee, sorry. And subsequently have appointed Mr. Peter Stubbs, who is going to be our independent chair of the Risk and Assurance Committee, who comes very, very well recommended and very well qualified for that role. So we're very happy with his appointment. 14th of March, there was that elected members workshop. I had to attend that by Zoom, and I wasn't particularly well that day, so I couldn't attend personally. But 17th of March, we had the meeting with the Kāwhia Hall Committee members here, and Jeff, I'm quite happy if you want to comment on that. 21st of March was the Otahuanga District Council's monthly meeting. And the 24th of March, we had a Te Taiaroa Kāwhia Moana meeting, which was followed by a site visit. Hano and John Forbes took us for a drive and showed us the proposed alternative access coming off Tom French Grove. And if you haven't been down to Tom French Grove recently, pop down and have a look. I think Lance Scott, he's been doing some fencing down there, and he's done a tremendous job down there, and I think it's the cost of that's been jointly shared by TKI and Council, I think. But the TKI are looking to try and just do some improvements in that general area, so it's actually going to be, it's going to look very nice when it's finished, and hopefully will be a deterrent for some of the antisocial stuff that goes on down there as well. So that was pretty much it there. I just wanted to put a shout out for the guys from Imprimax. I think Radar does a great job around town, cleaning up generally. I noticed today that the guys are here trimming the edges along the footpaths. They do some really good work in this community, and I think a lot of it's not recognised. So I just wanted to put a shout out to those guys and say thank you. And just one further question, who's actually responsible for the upkeep of the lookout area? Is that Whakatahi or is that council, do you know?
Do you mean
The halfway point
up the top of the
hill? It's state highway.
It is state highway, is it?
It'll be on, who's looking at the state highway?
Probably footnote.
It's not Imprimax, no, it's, it isn't? Did they get the contract?
I know it's outside the boundaries of this committee, but I stopped off there the other day, and it's looking very, very shabby, and it's not a good advertisement for people coming to Kāwhia if they're going to stop at the lookout to have a look at the harbour and all that sort of stuff, to see the crap that's up there, excuse my French, but also the vegetation is getting away and so on. Just the whole area just needs tidying up. So just wanted to make that point. That was me. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gilchrist. Yeah, I attended the Te Taio Kāwhia Moana, and yeah, I certainly enjoyed the trip around the forest. It gave me certainly appreciation of where we're going. They're working really hard to provide alternative access to what could happen with beach assets being restricted in Kāwhia. We attended Kit and I attended the meeting with the organisation that runs the community hall. Very, very productive. We had Trish from the council was there, Andrew. It was a very productive meeting.
It was.
Very productive. There's going to be a review, basically, of just everything. There was an acknowledgement of the hard work that's been put into the hall. And when you look at this hall, it isn't good enough. When you look at what's in the kitchen and things like that, there's a lot of hard work you put into it. But the same recognition that the council have left a lot of that hard work to the committee. So council's having a really good look at just what's needed to all the issues that have been brought up and around the government. Everything.
Just put them on the chair, please, bro.
And I'd just like to remind board members that the 20th is that community board training. Please make an effort to get there on that one. And the meeting on the 11th, that wasn't really on there, it's a workshop that's not referenced on the agenda of the long-term plan, but that'll be the one that will be a good one for Kāwhia, for the community board members to turn over as well. That's the Kāwhia wastewater treatment. In terms of what's been happening around the place, one thing we need to consider, board members and councillors, is the deputy chair position. Yeah. We'll have a discussion around about that later on, or I'll leave that with you to work through things there. I'm comfortable with whatever one I work with, I can assure you. I'd just like to officially farewell the Rusty Snapper when they depart after the Easter weekend. You don't realise what a huge community asset that is. It's the old town hall sitting over there, most mornings sitting in the sun, enjoying themselves. And if you want to know anything about Kāwhia, you either ask you lot around here, or you go to the Rusty Snapper and ask a few people there. And we, in terms of Aotea still has a horse problems, raised its head again. But I must admit, with the informal situation we've got over there, we can contact the horse owners directly, and particularly the owners of the horses along Morrison. You just send a photo along saying, are these yours? And you get it, oh, sorry, and they've gone. So that one's working well. Aotea Road, the horses that wander around the Aotea Road area, if we could have a new update, new contact for that one with James having his new role up in Auckland. I've lost but I don't know who to see those people. There are some of those still wandering around. But apart from that, it's been an interesting month, and I do still commend the public for turning up at these meetings. I do want this to be a forum where they can come along. So, and it's about communicating. We don't have to say things until this board meeting to get things. That there's a lot of advice sitting around this table. We can just ask questions, sort things out. Okay, and that's all from me. Thank you.
Very good. There were a couple of pigs wandering up Lake Road when I went to the boat stop today.
Oh, you only have to post that once. Post that once if you're gone for it.
They were nice looking pigs.
In an hour, yeah. Resolutions register. Right through. The board members all read the resolution register?
Yes, I think item K14 could probably come off now, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
If the board's happy with that. Yeah.
Well, there's a few of them in there. The money's been granted for K12.
Yeah, K12 can come off.
I think there's one K15.
K15 can come off.
16.
Probably K16
16
as well.
can come off.
Yep.
The only one left on really is the first one. It's the...
Yeah.
It's very good.
Very good on it. Board members, you've read the resolution. Mm-hmm. Do I have a move for that?
Yep.
And a second, Rich? Thank you. Keep your name on the paper. All those in favour? Aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Right, that brings the meeting to a close. I would like to call on Cassidy for our closing prayer.
Can we discuss
sorry.
the items that were put on the table from the public forum?
Yeah.
After the meeting? Okay. This way.
Kia ora tātou, mihi ana kia tātou, kia ora tātou. E pape e raki, e pape e rangi. Kia turuki mai te marua tuanui. He ai o nuku, he ai o rangi, he ai o matua. Kia mahea te ara, kia pūrangi aho te titiro. Kia kotahi te ngākau, kia koi te kupu, koi te mana, koi te arohae. I tūwhako o tinuku, i tūwhako o te rangi, tūturu o whiti whakamaua kia tīna, tīna haungi e, hui e,
Taiki.
Kia ora.
Kia ora, Kirsten.
And with that, board members, I close this meeting in harmony.